Imagine the walls of Lacunosa Town. To the casual Unovan traveler, they're a relic of a fearful past, a desperate shield against the legendary dragon, Kyurem. But if you take a closer look at the architecture, the windowless facades, the inward-facing doors, the heavy, sound-dampening stone, a much darker reality begins to take shape. This isn't a fortress designed to keep a monster out. It's a blindfold designed to keep the citizens in. For centuries, the ruling elite of Lacunosa didn't just survive the myth of the cold hole. They weaponized it to execute a systematic, human-led purge that they disguised as a supernatural tragedy. The genius of the Lacunosa leadership lay in their mastery of psychological conditioning. By establishing a 9 p.m. curfew, they didn't just create a safety protocol, but a tactical blackout. They fed the populace stories of a monster that would snatch anyone left in the streets, ensuring that by sundown, generation after generation, every door was barred and every eye averted. This night tax was the ultimate tool for social control. If a political rival, a vocal dissenter, or an unproductive member of society vanished in the middle of the night, the elders didn't have to explain the disappearance. They simply pointed towards the Giant Chasm and let the manufactured terror of Kyurem do the rest of the work. The victims weren't being eaten by a dragon. They were being marched to the edge of the cliffs by the very people sworn to protect them. The leadership of Lacunosa likely used the natural, absolute zero environment of the chasm as a biological incinerator, knowing that any evidence of their taxed citizens would be frozen and buried under layers of eternal permafrost, never to be recovered, and never to be identified. This environment explains the true nature of Kyurem's hostility towards humankind. Lore often paints the dragon as a mindless, hollow beast, but its legendary hatred for humanity likely stems from 1,000 years of forced witnessing. Kyurem used to be a creature of pure balance, a being of perfection that thrived off of the harmony of all living things. Now trapped in a permanent living stasis that preserves everything it touches in frigid ice. For centuries, it has lived in the center of a literal gallery of human treachery. Its frozen walls aren't just ice. They are a transparent tomb housing the hundreds of bodies left by the Lacunosa elite. Kyurem has spent an eternity staring into the eyes of innocent people betrayed by their own leaders. Their final expressions of terror, perfectly preserved in its eternal winter. Its aggressive disposition isn't the instinct of a predator. It's the righteous, agonizing fury of a witness who has seen the absolute worst of human nature and now views every person who approaches his home as another potential murderer coming to hide their sins. This theory is corroborated by the most damning evidence of all, the player's own experience. Despite the terrified warnings of the townsfolk and the centuries of folklore, you can simply stand in the center of Lacunosa at midnight and walk the streets completely unscathed. You can stand right at the gate, the very place where the monster is said to strike, and feel nothing but a chilly breeze. This isn't just a gameplay oversight. It's final proof that the danger was never real. If Kyurem were truly the indiscriminate predator the elders claimed, an outsider wandering the streets would be an easy target, wouldn't it? Instead, the night is silent, revealing that the monster only hunted those the leadership wanted to disappear. The beast was a ghost employed by the council to ensure that no one ever thought to look at who was actually holding the lanterns during those midnight disappearances. The screams of those being dragged through the cobblestone streets wouldn't trigger a rescue. Instead, those sounds would only make the neighbors huddle deeper into their blankets, terrified that the beast was outside their own door. The leadership turned every parent into a jailer, and every home into a cell. While the people whispered prayers for protection, the council was dividing up the assets of the disappeared. The walls weren't built to stop the wind or the ice. They were built to muffle the sound of struggle and to ensure that no one ever saw the lanterns of the town guards leading their next offering into the dark. The true tragedy is that the survivors of Lacunosa today still take pride in their resilient culture and their strict traditions. They don't realize they're the descendants of a population that was successfully broken by a lie. They're living in an open-air prison where the bars were made of stories, and the legacy of the town isn't one of survival, but of a centuries-long cover-up that traded human lives for absolute and unquestioned power. The walls of Lacunosa remain, not as a defense against the cold, but as a monument to the silence required to keep a massacre hidden for thousands of years. Every stone is a witness to a truth that the people are too afraid to see.